I've gone ahead and I've removed the belt tensioner assembly from the old Dodge Cummins 5.9, and unfortunately I didn't get the camera going soon enough to show you how to remove the assembly itself. But we're going to put it all back together, and I'll film that, and it's just simply the reverse of the installation, pulling it out. Now let me show you a few things about the belt tensioner assembly. This, get it right way here. This is how it sits on the engine. The engine is over on this side, and on the back of this, you can see it. Turn on its side here. There's a little pin or key, okay, and that corresponds with a hole in the engine block, so that when you mount this back on, it'll go on probably straight like this. This is the front, and then you have to rotate this just slightly until it finds that little key spot, and then you can slip it in, and that's locking the tensioner into position. Now anything you do to move this is spring loaded, so that puts the tension on the actual belt itself. Now the other thing that you should note, before you take it off, you have to figure out, how am I going to get the tension off of this thing? Well, right here is another key. Alright, this is where the bolt goes through into the block itself, but this is what takes the tension off. And to do that, you grab yourself a 3/8 ratchet. That's all it needs. And your ratchet, this is up and down position. Let me just get it sideways here a little bit. And you set the ratchet into the slot like so, and you just use your ratchet. I had to use a bit of pipe on this. It's down in an awkward situation. You can get at it, but if you put a little piece of pipe on it and get some leverage, now what you do is you take and you torque this. You torque this in the engine itself before it's taken off. That allows you to drop the belts off of the pulley here. Okay, you've got your serpentine belt that's going over top of the pulley, and by torquing this and holding it in place, you can just taking the tension off the belts. Now you can just slip the belts off and set them aside, and I'll show you them in the truck shortly. Okay, now that you've got this off and on your workbench, you can actually work on this thing. You can do it on the truck, but it's just as easy to remove it and take it right off. Okay, now the pulley itself, right here, is held on with one bolt here. It's a Torx, and it's right here. It's a T25, and you simply snug that up till it's fully tightened, because it is a shouldered bolt, and you can tighten it as much as you want and your pulley's still going to run. Okay, I've got my bolt in, and what I didn't show you, I had neglected to include, there's a washer goes on here. You can see it right here underneath the Torx. I forgot to put that on in that last clip, so you can see that with that tight, your pulley is ready to go again. Now, in order to gain information on this, I hadn't done this before, but to gain information on how to remove and replace this, I went onto the forum, and I got some information off the forum, and I got bad information, by the way. And here's a hint to you fellas that are working in your workshops. If you're going to do something, make sure you try it completely, and if you're going to post how to take something off and repair it, make sure you've done it, tried it, and it works. And this did not work, and I'll show you the reason why. Okay, here's the old pulley right here, and the advice I got on the net was to just simply pound out the bearings and replace the bearings in the actual pulley itself. So I went to my local parts store and I bought two bearings. It's a double bearing. There's a bearing on the inside and one on the outside, like so. And they're two very common bearings. I'll put all the parts down, but you don't need those parts because you can't replace these anyway, and I'll show you why. I was told to just pound them out, put in the new bearings, and Bob's your uncle. Well, I'll show you what happened. And there you have it. It's now a two-piece pulley. I'm trying to get this in the lens here for you. Not a very good setup. So I ended up making two trips. I took the new bearings back that I had bought, and I bought the new assembly with the bearings already in place. And the reason you can't replace them is they are actually set. You can see here, let me get this in the camera. They are set in grooves. You can see it on the other piece here. They're actually grooves here that the bearings are set into, and there's no way you can ever pound those out and not break your pulley. And this is a composite plastic pulley, so it breaks without too much stress. So there you go. That's the good information, is you can't replace the bearings by the assembly. You don't have to buy the arm and everything else, and spring, unless the spring is broken, is all okay. It's just this guy you need. Now there's a hint I kind of overlooked. If you do run into a situation where you have to press bearings or pound bearings out, a socket works great. You can simply go through your sockets and find one that matches as close as possible to get out on the outer bearing race, so you're actually driving on the metal and not the rubber and the bearings themselves. And you can select from your sockets, like I say, and find the right size. That works on something you can actually push out. One other thing is, if you want to analyze, I couldn't figure out exactly where the squeak was coming from. It would just squeak, drive you nuts, you know. And when you can hear that over the old Cummins 5.9 diesel engine, it's probably a significant squeak, and it usually indicates a bearing. But there's a lot of rotating parts on the front of the engine. I didn't know whether it was the water pump or the idler wheel like this one here that puts tension on the belt. So here's another little tip. You maybe already have this. You pros will know about this, but for the guys working in the backyard on their mechanics, make yourself a stethoscope. The cheap Woolworth's teeth I got here. Anyway, make yourself a stethoscope, and anything will work good. I happen to have some clear plastic tubing, and what I did, I could hear the squeak under the engine hood there, but I couldn't determine where it was coming from. So I got my trusty hose, stretched it out very carefully while the motor's running, don't stick your fingers in the fan, and I put this end down to the parts that I wanted to check, and this end fits nicely in my ear. And you'd be surprised how good a little stethoscope this is. This can work anywhere in your car where you're trying to find a squeak or a rattle or whatever, and there's a lot of other noises around it, and you can't isolate it. So that worked very good. As soon as I put that down behind that idler pulley, put this to my ear, I could immediately hear the click, 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 indicating the bearings are shot. And so there's another little tip for you. As I say, you pros probably know all about this, but the backyard mechanic, he can use all the help he can get. Alright, we've got our new pulley back on our assembly here, and we're going to go out to the truck and I'll show you how to put it back on. And then remember, it's just a reverse procedure. Sorry I didn't get the coming off. I was all excited about finding what was squeaking and got the part off before I realized I should have actually taken a few pictures or some video of that. But it's just a reverse procedure. Now don't worry about the part numbers. I'll post them at the end of the video and give you a couple of options, so you can just call your parts dealer and you'll have the information right at hand there. Okay, we're under the hood here. Now, first off, you're not going to break the bank on tools here. All you need is a 3/8 ratchet. That'll work without the socket to take off the, put in the key here to take the tension off. A 1/2-inch socket. That's for the 1/2-inch bolt that holds it to the block, like so. And I'm using a 1/2-inch ratchet wrench because it's a little close to the fan, and that helps a little bit. But you can get away with the 3/8 ratchet, no problem. Okay, here's where we're working. It's right below the alternator. and you can see the Serpentine belts right there. And this belt, if I can get my hand in, this one on top here, right here, that goes over top of the belt tensioner. Now, in order not to lose my belts and have them all drop, I simply clamped the two belts. There's one coming up, one going down. There's two belts right here, and I just clamped them with a little clamp, and hoping that I wouldn't lose my belts at the bottom there. Okay, we've got the assembly back on. You can see it down here. The hardest part of this fix is getting the camera in to show you how to do it. Anyway, the assembly is right here. Here's the, you can see that. Here's our new roller. The smooth part of the belt goes over top of the roller. Our other part of the belt is way down inside there. That's got to come up and over our center pulley here, and then up and over the alternator. Can't do that until we get everything bolted in. I just got this threaded in finger tight. We'll bolt that in tight, then we'll put our ratchet in the little key down here, put the spring tension on, and that'll take tension off the belt, and we can get the belt up and over the alternator. Okay, we got our bolt there, and you can see how the little ratchet wrench works nicely in here. I could use a socket, but the problem you run into is that the fan's in the way. It's not a frustrating project, it's just awkward to get your hands, the parts, and everything else in this confined space. Fight with the fan and the belt, so make sure the children are all inside. You may get a few blue words coming out of this one, but it's not that hard a project. Okay, I've got my belts realigned, and here's another little trick here. I've got this, I don't know, it's some sort of little tool with a hook on it. Get yourself a coat hanger, make a little hook if you haven't got something like that in your shop. It'll works wonders to be able to reach down in here and get the belts, and it's pretty near impossible to get your hand, your fingers, and everything in there, but that worked really good, so another little tip. Okay, we've got our belt over top of our idler pulley. It's underneath here. This one on top now has to come up and come over top of the alternator, and the way you do that is now we have to put our ratchet in the slot and twist this spring-loaded out of the way, releasing the belt tension and allowing us enough to put on top of here. Now, I use my ratchet, and I'll show you here another piece. I've got a piece of pipe here that I slip over top of my ratchet, and that allows me to work not way down in there, but up on top. And there's a fair bit of tension, so this really takes the strain off, because you got to hold it, the tension off, and then put the belt, as I say, over the alternator. And this is where the third arm comes in really good. And we're going to give it a try here. Now, as I said earlier, the hardest part of this job is setting the camera up so I can show you what transpires here, but hopefully you can see this, and I'll probably get in my own way here, but forgive me for that. You get the idea. So I've got my ratchet without a socket. It's just the 3/8 drive goes right into that little key in there. I've got my piece of pipe on my ratchet, will allow me to torque this over. And as I'm doing that, I'm going to pull my top of my serpentine belt and get it onto the top of the alternator belt. So let's just give this a try here. You see the tension coming off here. Pull it way over, and you pretty well need a bar on it, boys. Okay, that's where the little hook comes in again. I'm latched down here. I can't get my fingers in, so try and pull this belt out and align it to the center. There we are. Now it's on the center pulley back here, and it gives us some slack. Now I've lost my alignment on the actual idler pulley, so I'll get that back in place. I think we're pretty close now. My wedge is working good down there. I'll let my buddy go home if you want. Just gotta sneak a little bit more belt from somewhere. Just about there. There we go. I didn't have that spring load quite tight enough, and there's not much play, believe me. There's just going on there now. Things are somewhat lined up, I think. Let's check my idler pulley, make sure it's right on. Appears to be. Oh, it's going to get a little more torque on that spring there. There, she's sliding in now. There. It looks good. Just check and make sure you're in the grooves on the bottom pulley. You're centered on your, there's an idler pulley here in the middle. You're centered on that. Centered on the water pump. And it's not catching anywhere on the flywheel. Now you can just release the tension. And I think we've pretty well got her there. Can remove our ratchet. I'm gonna say it's just bare ratchet. There's no socket. It goes in that key. So now I got to go down below and remove the wedge. Check once again that it's all lined up, and we'll give it a jog over and make sure that she's running true. Okay, the main thing is once you've got all the tension off your pulley here, is to go over each pulley, give it an eyeball, and make sure that you're not outside the actual pulley. Make sure your belt's all in the grooves so that you don't risk tearing a serpentine belt. That looks like it. I've removed all the tools from under the engine compartment here with my flashlight. Don't want anything falling down inside there. And we're going to jog it over and make sure she's running well without the squeak. Well, that wraps it up. We probably saved ourselves a few dollars here. I hope this helped. Thanks for visiting Handyman's Haven, and subscribe, like, do whatever you want, you know the thing. And there'll be more videos come. Visit my site, graywhite.ca. It's white with a Y. And you'll see some other videos on there in the Handyman's Haven. Now before I leave, I'll just show you one more little trick that I use too for you guys that like to go in the bush, or you just like to be prepared. On the old 5.9 engines, there's lots of room under the hood, so a regular small handled, short handled shovel, piece of foam on it up against top of the heater box, a little bit of foam on the handle, and I made myself a little bracket here on the rad, so that just sits right there. And
She gets locked in place with a bungee cord. Like so. I got to tighten that up a little bit, but I'm never without a shovel when I'm in the bush, and it doesn't take up any space in the truck whatsoever. That's a wrap for today. Now I'm going to go and play in that vehicle over there. Now it's time to exchange the garage gloves for the driving gloves. Thanks for watching.